Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, Refracted Curvature, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hey, good morning, good morning.
How's it going, everybody?
Hey, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Good to have you all, enthusiastic bunch that you are. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
That's funny.
How did no one catch all these years people saying that boats go over hills of water?
How did no one catch that boats on the globe claim is going over an edge, like literally falling off an edge, and measuring how much of the edge is blocking it? It's a good point.
Somehow no one's picked up on that yet.
Well, we have here. We say it's a throwback from the Feast of Nonsense. I.e., when you get here, you're told that Earth's a pizza pie. If you're assuming it's flat based on the information you've come across, you might be told that the Earth is flying up at 9.8 meters per second through a sky vacuum as a pizza pie with boats falling over the edge of it. Meanwhile, the globe, which is has a gravitational effect, down 9.8 meters per second squared, traveling through a sky vacuum at a god-awful speed. You've got a boat that falls over the edge of the horizon. So there, oh, look how stupid you are with your boats falling over the horizon, which we don't claim. That's part of the controlled opposition narrative. Is the same as their exact claim that they used to say, look, we can prove that the horizon's Earth curve. Look how much the edge the boat's fallen over is blocking it by.
Well, one of the better proofs they used to have was fallacious logic and tricking people into believing that the horizon rises with you to eye level.
Yeah, another feast of nonsense claim. If you're going to be measuring a differential or correcting for a differential, then there's a differential when you raise an altitude between what your eye line would be at 90 degrees to your vertical versus the actual plane of the ground below you. As it stretches out, you're opening up the angle to what you view, increasing the amount that you view with altitude. And you can measure that drop, the differential between your horizon as it represents itself versus the horizon dropping away from your 90 degree to vertical position when you're at altitude. Therefore, the horizon does not, ipso facto, rise to eye level. And the differential between those two planes is what gives you the maths to derive curvature from.
Well, it does appear to rise to eye level. That's the difference.
Redundant.
As it does with an airplane flying 6 miles above the equator, getting a 0 to Polaris on their horizon, the same way as the Mariner 6 miles below them at the equator gets a 0 to Polaris on their horizon.
At a cursory glance, it might appear to rise to eye level, but ipso facto, it does not.
The horizon is not real. It doesn't exist. This is the problem. I tried my best. I tried my best to get in to say that yesterday. Not a hope. The horizon doesn't exist. There is no such thing. It's not there. It's an optical illusion.
Well, it's not an optical illusion. It's a point of optical dissolution.
You can measure it.
It's not a point.
Yeah, it is.
It's not in anything.
Yeah, it is. I can see it.
You can see it, but it's not a point. A point would make it a physical something.
Okay.
There's no physicality to it.
No, that I'll agree with. There's no physicality to the horizon. It's a point of optical dissolution. And that point of optical dissolution will drop with elevation increase. That's just a fact. It'll drop from your 90. If you're dropping a plumb line, drawing a 90 out to your position, or establishing a horizontal with a bubble level in the air, then the horizon will be below that.
Fact that it's a plane, the fact that we live on wow, I'm getting feedback like crazy. The fact that we live on an irregular plane, and when your eyeballs are on it with the proper dip correction, you got your baseline. As you rise, that differential is always there to the height you have risen to. But because you do live on the plane, and it's not a ball falling away, is what I think Brian is trying to express in what he's saying.
Going on. What's the blingy blongs and now different symbols on Arwen and Neil? What have you two just done?
We're raising our hands.
Oh.
I want to say hello. Yeah, there's a new raise your hand symbol, I guess.
Yeah, I don't like that. You don't need that.
Does it make a sound?
Yes, it does. A very irritating sound.
That's annoying.
That
Okay.
destroys the conversation as it's flowing.
I
raising
had
hands.
it in my pocket, so if it went without me knowing.
I could just unmute and say bloom.
Just say whatever you've got to say. That would be much more better. Much more better? Much better.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good to have you, Arwen.
Oh, better.
The pilot 6 miles above the equator gets a 0. 0 is when the Polaris is at their horizon. That happens. I don't know what else to say.
But you can also take a sextant and measure a differential between your eye level and sea level, that horizon.
Yeah, but is that differential any different? The point I'm making is, how can the pilot get a 0? Which 0 is when it's at the pilot can't get a 0 to Polaris from the equator if Polaris is above the horizon. It's not 0 then.
Yeah, and?
Yeah, so the horizon appears to rise to eye level. It appears to rise to eye level. The same way as when you're standing,
No, because your eyes, what's
the problem
measuring
here
it
is
drop.
we're not dealing with how it appears. When you get a sextant in your hand, then it's no longer just how it looks like or appears anymore, because you're measuring, using it. Or if you're drawing out a 90 degree from your position or getting a bubble sextant,
you're not getting
you can reference it in relation to that.
No.
Hang on. Brian is saying on purpose the word appears, not actual.
But it's redundant.
I know, but you guys are so pedantic on the fact that there's a differential between the two lines, the eye line and the baseline of the ocean, which we all agree on. Oh my goodness, we already know that.
Let me try a different tact. Brian got furious with me about 18 months ago for this exact thing, right? Because I said, if you're out at sea and you've got a sextant and you're on the deck of a boat, for the sake of argument, let's say it's 20 foot off the sea. I said, you don't need to do dip correction because the difference is so small when you're on the boat versus up in, I don't know, 30,000 feet or something much, much higher. It would make such an insignificant difference. You wouldn't really need to do the correction at all. And Brian got furious with me to labour a point, which I'm sure was very important. I just can't remember for the example now. But what I can remember was Brian getting annoyed with me about saying, nah, the dip's not really needed. Well, that's the dip we're talking about now, that Brian's now contradicting.
No, I'm not contradicting.
Let me rephrase it. I'm not contradicting.
I want Brian. Sorry, John. Go ahead, Brian.
Not contradicting. The horizon you see from your boat is only a couple of miles away, right? And you know you're 20 foot above it or whatever. Then you do have an obtuse angle, not a right angle. That's why you have to correct down to sea level, because you're using the level of the water as your horizontal. You're using the surface, the horizontal baseline of Earth as your horizontal.
Right, but you'd
when
have to.
you're in an airplane, you're seeing. Hang on. When you're in an airplane, you're seeing the horizon appears to be much further away from you. So that's why you're seeing Polaris at 0 at the horizon. The horizon appears to rise to eye level.
What are you correcting for?
Let-
In either event, what are you correcting for, Brian?
You don't have to correct with the bubble sextant.
I can't believe I'm hearing this. You jumped down my throat when I said that.
Because
oh, sorry, did you say bubble?
Because with the marine sextant, you're using the surface of Earth.
That's right.
Right.
Well, let me go ahead and put it in context.
No, they're not getting it, John. Hold on, Brian. Hold on, Brian. Just go ahead, John.
I can't believe this is happening.
I can't believe it's happening either when you jump down my throat for saying you don't need dip correction. And in this example, you're saying, well, the horizon kind of rises to eye level. It's apparently at eye level. It's like the apparent position where the sky meets the ground apparently rises with you.
Well, let me go ahead and fix apparent. The not actual position where the sky seems to meet the ground is not actually rising with you to eye level.
When you're using a marine sextant.
Wait, no.
Hang on.
Address
one
that.
second. I'll address that in a moment. Well, address that in a moment. When you're using a marine sextant, you must do height of sight correction. And the reason it's so important is not just to make the 90 degrees, it's so you're using the surface of Earth as your horizontal. That is the killer part of that argument.
Yeah. That's one.
Yeah.
That's the differential. Go ahead, John. It's getting frustrating.
When you say the horizon, the not actual position appears to rise to eye level, doesn't actually rise to eye level. When it's said that way, that's true. So saying the horizon appears to rise to eye level would be okay, as long as you're saying not actually. The horizon doesn't actually rise to eye level.
You're getting caught up in a place we're not even disagreeing. It's perspective. It's the way we see things, the vanishing point, the convergence of lines meeting. It's that thing I said yesterday where they go into projected geometry. Okay, this is where they hijack it and misuse it. But we're being honest here. When Brian is saying it appears, he's not saying actual. It just appears that way because prior to bubble section,
not actual.
I was in the middle. Yeah, fine, not actual. Oh, my goodness, why are we getting caught up on this? We're all saying the same thing, just one side is stuck there without realizing the other side's point yet. When the first sextants were being used on the airplanes, they did do dip correction. They have tables for it if you're at 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 feet, if you could see the horizon and no clouds were in your way. Why are they doing dip correction from an airplane at 20,000 feet? What's that importance for? Brian just said it, because you're going to use the sea surface as your baseline. Then they figured out, hey, you know what? We can put a bubble in this thing. And they put a bubble and created a horizontal parallel to the sea horizontal, the sea surface. How do you get the same answer at 5 miles up as you do at sea surface? How do you get the same answer?
Eye level?
Perspective?
No, because you're not using the perspective that gives you the horizon when you're drawing out a horizontal plane with the bubble.
No. For the Brian's point of appears.
Not actually.
Right.
Right.
We know. We know it's
but
not.
No,
actual.
you gotta think of the way the question's asked.
Okay, let me.
It looks like the horizon rises to eye level.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
He said it appears.
Let me say
he didn't
something.
Say it actually did.
Let me say something, guys.
New voice. Go ahead, Righteous.
I think we should all just recognize, at least on the panel, that the meaning for horizon is not actual. So when we're talking about the horizon, we can just say horizon. We don't have to say not actual and right away know it's not actual. So if Brian says it rises to eye level, he's talking about a not actual horizon. It just appears like that due to perspective. So you don't have to like add in all these extra words about not actual.
Yeah,
you just have to say horizon. That's it.
What? No, as soon as you lob off the apparent statement, the contention comes because if you add in it apparently rises to eye level, that would be appears but not actual. That's what that word means. However, it still has redundancy because by definition, a horizon is apparent. It's the apparent position where the sky meets the ground or sea. So within the context of what you're talking about, it's automatically deemed to be apparent. However, if you then lob it off the statement completely, you make an ipso facto statement that's wrong. The horizon rises to eye level is not correct. So there's a bit of it's a worthy discussion point, but just to say, well, because you're saying the horizon rises to eye level, but then it's incorrect. So
no one's saying it's not incorrect. No one is saying it actually does, but it does appear so.
No, I think Nathan's saying is like if there's a the only time it wouldn't rise to eye level is if you couldn't see far enough or weather conditions. Like fog would dramatically lower the horizon.
Doesn't matter.
Level.
Still get a horizon.
No, it does. That's not the point. The point is you're dealing with a irregular plane, and the ground is not falling away from you. So the higher, as Brian said, the lower you are, it's like 2 miles out, 5 miles out to your eyesight. Okay, the higher you go, it goes further out. So the appearance of it isn't that the cloud is touching the ocean. Clouds aren't touching the ocean. But it appears that way.
That's not what the argument is, though. You can
really?
measure.
I thought that's what the argument was.
Let me say something quick with Nathan. To make sure we got this really quick. Okay, when you're like, let's say like at sea level on a ship, so you're not exactly at sea level, you're a bit above sea level because you're on a ship, and the weather condition is clear, that horizon is going to be at your eye level. Now, if you go higher, let's say on a plane, it will, the higher you go, the more it will appear that horizon dips. And the reason it dips, even if it's a clear, perfect day, is because you can't see far enough to where the horizon, how do I put it? You know how we have perspective lines drawn? Well, you can't draw to the tip of that point the higher you go because you can't see to the tip of that point where everything converges. That's why it would appear for the horizon to dip. Well, hold on. That's why it would appear the horizon drops the higher you go, just a little bit. But generally for like ship navigation and stuff like that, if it's a fine day, you can use the horizon at eye level to create that level. And if it's a bad weather, I think Tent said we just use like a bubble or something like that, right?
Oh, no.
Hold on a minute. Whoa.
Let me clear
Your statement was wrong.
Well, let's
not
hear Tent.
your eye level.
It's four people
Let
at
me
once.
finish.
Stop.
The first
John
statement was
first. Hold
wrong.
on.
Everything that came after it is false.
Go ahead, John.
Okay.
The first statement was wrong. Everything that come after it is false. The horizon is not your eye level. You can measure a differential between your eye level and the horizon. That's at your sea level. That's where the geometry of Earth is derived, and that little trick. And I keep pointing it out, and y'all act like I'm an idiot for pointing it out, and I'm getting frustrated.
No one's arguing that. What is your problem?
Yeah, Brian.
No one is arguing the differential. Can we get that settled? No one.
Right, but Al Baruni is
I am arguing something.
Yeah, I know you are. Brian is saying different, and what we're saying is no. The reason Al Baruni is capable of deriving an R value is because he's got a dip to measure to in terms of the differential of that horizon when he goes up the mountain. Ergo, there is a difference. It does not rise to eye level.
Not the spirit of what Brian or I am. At least it's not the spirit of what I'm saying, is it now?
Are we back at that
My
one?
hand is raised.
Yeah, we are,
I
yeah.
thought we were using this. I was a naive little boy. You're not
That's what were you
using
gonna
the
say to
hand
me?
raise function.
Do I need to bring out my eyeball on the stick again?
No.
Well, since this is derailed a little
so,
bit, Tent, what were you going to correct me on?
Wow. Fuck, forget it.
The horizon is not eye level.
Are we on that? Just catching up, boys. So we are on that.
Well, Tent said I did
specific
something
point
wrong, and I want to know what I did
already.
wrong so I can correct it in the future.
It's just told
Yeah.
you.
No, I
Yeah.
tell you, Rogers. From a ship, you always have to correct for your height of eye level, bringing the vertex of the angle down to the waterline. Even if the horizon
I know that
appears to
part.
be at eye level, even if the horizon appears to be at eye level, hang on, even if the horizon appears to be at eye level, you still must do the correction because it's technically
I know
not.
that.
Right. That's our point.
I know that.
Technically, hold
That's-
on, righteous. Yes, the concession. Technically, it doesn't rise to eye level, that is.
Yeah.
Nathan, it's very simple.
Define
Let me
horizon,
say
Nathan. You
this
see,
and I'll
this is the
shut
trick.
up oh gosh.
Hold on, righteous. You're talking through everyone. I know you're excited.
Anytime the sextant uses the horizon mirror and uses the C horizon, dip must be done. The only time it doesn't is when you have a bubble giving you a horizontal parallel to it, or a pan of Mercury when you're landlocked. Okay, so anytime the C horizon, which is in question here, is used, dip must be done. Whether you could be 10,000 feet up on the plane, and if you're saying, you know what, I'm not going to use the bubble sextant, I'm going to take my regular old sextant because I could see where the sky meets the sea. I could see the horizon. Well, then the altimeter or whatever they use to figure out their height, 10,000 feet, that must be subtracted to get your baseline. So anytime you use the C horizon, you must do dip correction.
Right. Can I jump in? I don't disagree with that. I actually agree with that, and I understand that. But now we're just talking. We're not talking about the horizon. We're talking about like the baseline of the ground, right?
Yeah, and how do you establish that? With the horizon.
Yeah, but my thing, right? But I was solely talking. I was separating the horizon from everything else. Is what I was doing. I
Yeah,
was
but you
pointing
shouldn't
out
be.
how the horizon at sea level, if you're on a ship, would be at eye level.
No, it wouldn't.
And you guys saying
It's
it wouldn't
not.
be at
That's
eye
not
level,
true.
but you
Yeah,
guys,
it wouldn't.
hold on, let me finish. Yeah, but you guys are talking about the baseline, the actual ground.
No,
I'm
I'm
not
not.
talking about the
I'm
actual
talking about
ground.
Okay,
the
everyone stop.
horizon.
Everyone stop.
Hold on,
Stop,
let me
stop,
finish,
stop,
let me
stop,
finish.
stop, stop, stop. In order for you to
I'm
perform
talking about-
stop. In order for you to perform navigation functions, it must be done with a flat baseline. Yeah? That's how
Yes.
it's done.
Yes.
Well, you have to
Yes.
establish a flat baseline. If you use the horizon, you do a dip correction to get that measurement
Yes.
down to. You don't have to nod through me. You're closing the line. Yes, thank you. You don't have to do any correction if you establish a horizontal with a tool that establishes horizontal. But if you're using the horizon to establish horizontal, you have to correct from your height to the ground level with a dip correction to make that horizontal. So you're correcting to horizontal with the horizon. But that correction is done purely because it isn't 90 degrees to your vertical. So because it isn't, that would be it's dropped, you have to do a correction. So because we know you have to do the correction, that implicitly, without question, states that the horizon does not rise to eye level.
All right. Can I reply? Right. So I'm talking about horizon, and you're talking about what's the other thing you guys are saying? Like the baseline, the ground. What was the other word you used for that? You used a better word for that.
No, he was talking about the dip angle correction to the horizon.
Right, but I'm not talking. You guys are talking about the ground, but I'm talking about the horizon.
Yes. And when you
Right.
draw out on your map, you'll be drawing it out because you're going to be navigating the ground. But to make sure all the circles you draw are correct and the distances you get are correct, you have to start by working with, from your position, a horizontal baseline. So you go, right, well, how am I
Right.
going to get that? Well, the closest, the most obvious thing that you can utilize is the horizon. But it's not without flaw, because it's not you on the ground with your eye in the water looking at the horizon an inch away. Therefore, you correct for the fact that as you rise in altitude, the horizon does not maintain that horizontal plane as you go up. You have to correct it to the horizontal plane that you're going to be drawing on your maps. So you're correcting for the fact the horizon doesn't rise to eye level. That's why you're correcting it.
I know that part. That's why hold on, let me finish. That's why I'm separating the two. I'm separating the baseline from what is apparent. I know what you guys are talking about. I understand all that stuff.
Yes, you get
Hold on a
in there.
second.
Hold on, he's nearly there. Yes, that's correct. So you've got a baseline that is the ground that you're going to be navigating and drawing on your map. And if you use the horizon, you've got a line down from your raised in elevation position down towards the horizon. Yeah, that's your dip correction that you'll later do. However, you can also draw out a horizontal plane at your eye level using a tool like a bubble sextant. That will also give you another plane, not the ground because you're in the middle of the air, but it still gives you all you need to do these navigation functions. That's a horizontal plane. In the air, once you establish one with a bubble, there's nothing more to do. There's no correction because you just needed the horizontal plane that you're going to be navigating. And that's parallel with the actual ground you're navigating on in physical reality. So that's two planes, one at eye level. They call that the sensible horizon in globe terminology, and the ground level that's on the map, the bit that you're going to navigate. Now, the difference between those two planes, the one at eye level and the one that is the ground you're navigating, is where mathematically you can derive your curve function as you raise in altitude. As the difference increases, you can plot that on a graph and get a curve.
Right. But I'm not saying the baseline.
Stop. So you said, yeah. Well, yeah. So where we have a flat plane and can utilize star navigation functions, so long as we establish a flat plane at any altitude, because it runs parallel with the ground, that principle is still employed for navigation. But, and this is John's point, the difference between the two planes plots out as Earth curve. That's where you're getting Earth curve from. So to deny that the horizon does not rise with eye level is to deny the very essence of the derivation of the curve that they say we've got. And Al-Biruni's methodology to get R from the horizon as it dips from his position when he raises and goes up the mountain. So part of their narrative, part of their maths, the heart of their globe Earth, the R value, comes from this fact that the horizon does not rise to eye level. So us flat earthers stating that it does, when they're like basically going to laugh in our faces and go, well, the way I get the R value is by the very nature of the horizon not doing that. It's in their maths. And here's this going, yeah, horizon rises to eye level, apparently. No, bloody doesn't.
You're missing what Roach is trying to tell you, Nathan. You're not listening to
Let me say it quick. I'll say it quick. I'll say it really quick, Ryan. I'm not saying the baseline rises to eye level.
So
I never said that.
So who cares then? Nobody said that at all.
But you guys are mixing the two up, a horizon and a baseline.
No, we're not.
Well,
yeah, Aaron,
it
Nathan,
actually does.
Yeah,
Hold on.
You might be
confuse
Stop.
the issue.
I can explain.
Stop.
John, go ahead.
Is the horizon at sea level? Yes or no?
The sea level is only part of the horizon, John. The horizon
But
is
it
where
is part
all
of it.
things meet.
But it is part
I'll
of
say
it.
it. I'll answer. I'll answer. I'll answer.
When you're correcting, 1 second, I'll help it, Rogers. When you're correcting with a marine sextant, you're correcting them to sea level. But the horizon itself is a point where all parallels meet.
The horizon is at sea level, correct?
The baseline's at sea level. The horizon's at eye level. You got the
Wrong.
differentiate
No.
between the two.
Sorry, you're telling us that you're not
That's what-
confusing the baseline with the horizon. No, the horizon. Stop. Hello. The horizon is the apparent location where the sky meets the sea. You're saying, no, it's different to the base. No, it's the point where it meets the sea. So ipso facto, it is where it's touching the sea, apparently. Now, the sky doesn't touch the sea, but that's what we're ipso facto describing, where it touches the sea. Now, the reality is, where that point is out in the distance, yeah? Fact, when you raise an altitude, that point is below you. Fact. It can't not be. Now, that point
one's arguing
also...
that.
I'm nearly done. That point, fact, in physical reality, the actual water is below you. And what you're seeing is the point where the literal water, the splashing liquid, appears to touch the sky. Now, because that point is literally below you and cannot be anything other than below you, it cannot do anything other than drop as you raise. Doesn't matter that that point expands out further. It's still below you.
Are you done?
To
Hang on,
add
Eli.
to that,
Hang on,
Below
Eli.
your
it's been
eye. Below your eye.
I just allow me to say this. I haven't said basically anything. Like, I thought we just went over the whole conversation of the dip is the measurement between the baseline and the horizon. I'm doing quotes in the air. If that's the case, I don't understand the retort. We're not talking about the baseline. We're talking about the horizon.
Right.
I don't get that retort.
Because you can use the horizon to establish your baseline if you correct for the fact that it is dropped with your elevation.
Can I interject something, please? I mean, we're talking about two different elements from two completely different fields. One is a Euclidean designation, right? Sea level. That's a specific designation within space, Euclidean space. Horizon is a purely optical interpretation, and we're discussing both like they're connected. They're not.
No.
One is an optical, an apparent interpretation. The other is a literal location.
No,
Can't mix them
that's
up.
the issue, Owen. No, it's not.
What do you mean? No, it's not. Yes, they are. Sea level is a Euclidean designation. The horizon is an optical effect. It's
The problem is
optical
most of
only.
y'all
The
been
horizon
around
doesn't
this shit for
exist.
7
Can I
years.
please finish? The horizon doesn't exist outside of sight.
Right. So,
Yeah, but the
that
horizon is an optical effect that we know is not horizontal.
What is it caused by?
That
It's
wasn't
caused
my
by
point.
the deck. So that whole point of the horizon is a point below your feet in the distance.
It's only apparent.
No, it's not.
It is actually, I'll try and expand on what
When
Adam
you're
said. I've
doing the
tried to say it, Adam's tried to
calculation-
say it. If you've got, let's say your horizon is only 3 feet away from you because you're in a dinghy or whatever. We're just, for easy numbers, going to say that the horizon's very, very close in this example. Yeah? Now, out at 8 miles, there's an ocean liner. Okay? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to get on the ladder for the helicopter that comes and rescues you, and it's going to raise you up in altitude. And you're going to be, just by coincidence, holding a sextant as you do so. We all with the scenario, on a dinghy, looking through the sextant at the horizon, very close to you, and then you get collected by a helicopter and raised up in altitude. As you do so, what's going to happen is, in your view through the sextant, at a point, the ocean liner comes into view on the horizon. Is everyone following along so far?
Yep.
Right, we're going to say that at the point that you get to see the ocean liner, literally just start to resolve on the horizon. Yeah, we're going to say that at that point, you're 1,000 feet in the air. Everyone still following along?
Yep.
Yes, but
Would-
it's all
would you-
still within an optical description, though.
Yes, we're looking through a sextant at a horizon. Okay, so we've looked from 1,000 feet at the ocean liner, 8 miles or whatever it is miles in the distance, just come into view. Will we all concede that what we are looking at on the horizon is in fact below us?
Yes, Euclidean-wise, yes.
So we're all in agreement that we are looking at something on the horizon that is definitely below our eye level.
Exactly.
I mean, exactly.
Actually
It's been
below
like
eye
pulling
level.
teeth, Arwin.
It's actually at below eye level, but through vision, it is at eye level.
One more time, Righteous. It's actually below eye level, so not risen to eye level then, like we've been trying to tell you for 20 straight minutes.
I mean, I agree with that. Can I hear what? I also want to hear what Tenth was going to say.
You agree?
Is that okay?
You weren't agreeing. Yeah, now
No,
I've
you were
taken my time.
misunderstanding
You
what
agree?
Righteous was trying to say to you, Nathan.
Just split it.
It's
No,
Right,
you all are
just-
Can I hear Tenth?
misunderstanding it.
You all are
Okay,
arguing this
okay,
because you
okay,
spent
penny
7 years
droppers. Thank you,
arguing.
thank you. Now we can hear from Brian.
You were misunderstanding the point Righteous was trying to make. Righteous was trying to say that sea level is below your eyes.
Don't worry about Righteous. Righteous is set. We're now talking to you, Mr. It apparently rises to eye level, Brian.
Right then, how many more times do I have to state that the airplane 6 miles above the equator sees Polaris at 0 on the horizon? How is that possible? How are they seeing Polaris on the horizon?
Not
if
the
horizon
argument.
is not
I don't
appearing
disagree
to
with
rise
that.
to eye level?
That's red herring. That's not the argument.
It's not red herring. That's
It
the whole
is.
point here.
It is.
That
We've
was
not
my
made a claim
the
about
original
the
thing I said.
stars. We've not made a claim about the stars and their relation to the
All
horizon.
we're talking
Brian.
about
You
is the
should have
horizon.
been
Bring that
that.
into it.
Let's stick to
It's not
daytime,
red.
just for
I
Brian.
was the first person that
Brian.
I'm aware of. That I'm aware of, Nathan. I was the very first person in the whole of flat Earth to actually go against that claim that the horizon rises to eye level. I even made a video about it in 2017. I would have made one in 2015 if I knew how to bloody make videos.
What?
2017, I made a video about that. After that, in 2018, Bev came out onto the scene, and Bev started saying the exact same thing. It can't. What people, the horizon can't actually. What we see, well, it's not even the horizon; it's sea level. Let's just say, cannot rise to eye level if your eye level is above it. Then your eye
Right.
level is a parallel. Parallel planes cannot meet.
Yeah.
Nathan?
But the horizon
Nathan?
can appear to rise to eye level. Appear to the person. It appears that it's at their eye level. It appeared to me it was above my eye
No.
level at one point.
No.
No,
Look.
but you
I'll
can
accept that,
measure.
Brian. I'll accept that on the basis
Gosh.
that. Hold on, everyone else, please. I did specifically say I wanted to talk to Brian, but everyone else, thank you. Yeah, what you're saying was what Life is Short said. At the end of 5 hours of disclaiming various different things about how our viewing field actually is made up as we rise in altitude. So he had, I'm going to say, a solid hour of disclaimers, if you want to phrase it that way, before he got to the point where he said, well, yeah, it basically does rise to eye level, but that's so oversimplified. I'll have to go back and get out his exact comment, because I remember at the time thinking, okay, that's a lot to wrap your head around, because it doesn't rise to eye level, it's dropping away, like my example with the boat on the horizon.
May I,
Yes.
Brian?
Yes, go ahead,
Nathan,
Tenth.
Nathan, John, well, how do you miss something right in front of you like this? I'm going
Are
to
you
test
kidding
you
me?
right. I'm going to test you right now. Railroad tracks, they don't converge. The trains would crash if they did. But it appears to do what?
You're talking about how things converge in the horizontal field versus the vertical field. That's different.
Hang on. hang on. I didn't ask for an explanation. What does it look like to you at infinity? What
Looks like they meet.
consider
Yeah,
That's
it looks
not
like they
infinity.
meet in the horizontal field. The left-hand
This
side
is
rail seems to meet the
impossible, John.
right-hand side rail.
John, please hold off. I'm not saying this. I'm telling you
Right.
what projective geometry and what they are saying. Now, this whole thing can't be solved with just one aspect of an argument. Brian never said what you guys said he said. Al-Biruni and Eratosthenes had to assume the Earth is a globe in order for that dip correction to do what they did. If they didn't assume the Earth was a globe, we wouldn't have a globe. So an assumption has to follow in advance of going up the mountain and measuring the differential. And that assumption is, I live on the globe, so I'm going to use this differential to prove a globe. Well, you need R for that. And plus you measured an angle at sea level using a flat baseline. So he's discounted for being dishonest or stupid or a made up story. What Brian is saying is it appears, he's not saying it actually is, and we all agreed on that already. It's a perspective thing. We know
But look,
as the higher you go, that's how much you're above sea level. We already know that. And that's why you have dip correction.
hold on. Can I please respond? Because this has been 7 years in the making. People have argued this point and gotten beaten over and over again. But just because your field of view opens up as you rise in altitude does not change the fact that there is a differential measured with an optical tool. Using your eye, you are measuring a differential between your eye level and the horizon.
Agreed.
Now, don't confuse the horizon with the baseline because the optical field's growing, but the horizon is partially made up of that baseline.
Agreed. What's the problem now?
So
No,
the horizon does not rise to eye level.
That's the
Of course
problem.
it doesn't. The higher you go, that's how much you're above it. But the railroad tracks don't meet either, but it sure looks like they do.
Yeah, but we just need
You know
to
what,
relinquish
somebody-
that statement because
That's all
it's
we're saying.
I know, but what I think John's trying to get across is there's a factually incorrect statement when people say the horizon rises to eye level, even if they insert apparent into the statement, because it is factually incorrect. Part of the derivative curve values and radius value for a sphere Earth. So it's a point that people have their asses handed to them on. Now, we know
I
the
think
intricacies of it. Brian knows the intricacies of it. Brian could fight his way out of this with his eyes closed. But the audience and the flat earthers at large have a misapprehension in this statement that has come from the Feast of Nonsense. So it's worth us going into it in this minutiae. That's why I've stopped at this housekeeping question and let this continue, because I think it's very much worthwhile. I think
Here's
John's
what's happening.
I'm nearly there. John's
Okay.
overriding point is that to say the horizon rises to eye level is factually incorrect and will lead you into a losing argument unless you're Brian or someone of Brian's caliber in terms of debate.
I disagree. I think we ought to teach them the right way because they can live life without confusion. What the railroad tracks and convergence tell us is what Brian is saying. And if they understand railroad tracks don't actually meet, then you can use that as your quote unquote baseline argument to say, hey, same thing with the horizon. If you're at sea level, boom, you're right there. There's no dip correction. The minute you're 1 inch above it, you're above it. How about 10 feet above it? Yeah, that's the difference. You got to correct for that because
You can measure an apparent difference.
I'm in the middle again. This is exhausting.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, well, why don't you let me finish? No one's going to argue about perspective geometry and what the painters in the 16th century figured out and to make their paintings 3D to look like the way we see in real life. What you guys are doing is taking what we see in real life and being so pedantic over it. It's just crazy. You're choking me here. We all agree it doesn't rise to eye level.
Then stop saying it.
I'm done.
Well, he's right.
Yeah,
I completely
hang on.
agree with John. I side with John, and Brian has got the further point to say, while you're
Well, then
right,
stop
there is a
saying the railroad tracks meet.
I thought you were done.
Stop saying
I
that.
thought you were done. I thought it was really difficult when
I-
people talk through you.
Well, I'm pissed off
Can I
now
have a go?
because
I know you are, but this is
Wow.
a worthy discussion. I'm glad you've got the passion in your voice. I'm
right, but you
glad.
guys are misunderstanding what Brian and I are saying and saying the very thing we agree with you on as if it's the thing we disagree with you on.
As a general term, I appreciate that you and Brian have an exemplary knowledge when it comes to this particular differential that's being elaborated on over and over again by John. We know you know that. Brian's elaborated on the fact that he was one of the first to say the horizon doesn't rise to eye level. Here's the differential many years ago. I get all that. It doesn't alter the fact that with a basic understanding, with a general knowledge, fed at the feast of nonsense, your average flat earth Joe, the audience hears the horizon rises to eye level quite frequently, and factually it's inaccurate. That's all that John's trying to get across. Further to that, when it's utilised or employed incorrectly, and it is frequently, it leads to an arse whipping from a glober.
It's also inaccurate to say railroad tracks seem to converge, but we always do.
May I address this?
7 years of arguing this nonsense that's what this is. People have been saying it for 7 years and been losing their ass for 7 years. Every
No,
time they say there's not, that the horizon rises to eye level, all a glober has to do is whip out a sextant and it's over.
Did Chocolate just join?
Oh my gosh.
Am I allowed to go?
You can, but I just want to check if Chocolate was here, because
Yep.
Chocolate's
Yep.
my man
Good
out on the
morning.
circuit. Hello, Chocolate. Chocolate's the man that can confirm that people use this argument, say the horizon rises to eye level, and then have their ass handed to them when he's in their presence. Am I right, Chocolate? We'll find out.
Wait,
Just-
say that again?
Before Chocolate goes, what you just did there, Nathan, was very wrong. That's not what Brian and I are saying. Why are you throwing us in the same camp as those people saying that?
I'm not.
That is wrong.
I'm not. I'm
Come on. You just said-
I'm specifically distinguishing you and Brian from the average Joe audience member, based on the fact that you guys are the ones disseminating this information out for a long period of time. Therefore, it doesn't necessarily apply to you. But the statement in general, served up to everybody, you're not spitting out this bowl of soup that you've ate at the feast of nonsense. That's not what you're doing. But that statement is one of the alphabety spaghetti soup nonsenses that you fed at the feast of nonsense and spat back out incorrectly by many a fellow flat earther. So no, I'm not tarnishing you with this brush. And I understand how the trick's working, and you're pointing out and Brian's pointing out, and I agree, that, well, yeah, but it still does look like it rises to eye level. And you'd be right about that. As you rise up, the horizon rises up with you, is what you're saying. And you're right, it does. But
From a
ipso facto, when you get
perspective
down to the
issue.
nitty-gritty of arguing about it, and that's what we deal with. We deal with the numbers. You're having an argument at the moment about pi and how it's defined, right? This is the minutiae. You're calling us pedantic for it? No. I've experienced people have their
Nathan.
asses handed to them for this. John has experienced it. I'm asking Chocolate to confirm that's the case, so I can elaborate on the fact that we're doing this for the audience, not to have a go at you and Brian.
Oh, okay, hang on 1 second before Chocolate comes in and then Adam, because he's been waiting. We're saying from a perspective issue, it appears. And we're saying the audience should learn when they hear this, they say, yeah, from a perspective issue, like railroad tracks, it appears, but we know it doesn't. That's the answer.
Can you measure railroad tracks meeting?
Why give an opening though?
Did-
I think
did-
that's
Oh
what
my
John's
God.
saying.
Didn't he just say they don't meet?
Yeah, go
Well, I
on.
don't. What's going on?
Yeah, well,
here?
he's got a great point, but go on, Chocolate.
Well, as far, I mean, obviously, you guys are talking about the horizon appearing to rise to eye level and how that was correctly misused for a while because people would just say it does rise to eye level. Is that
Yes.
what we're on?
Yes.
Okay. I don't. What's the disagreement?
I'm
Let me
suggest-
answer for you, Nathan, because I've been in the trenches as well. I've never said that as an argument. I don't see a lot of people saying that, but I am aware that it's like a new thing. When you join Flat Earth, you might hear someone say that, but I don't think it's a current argument.
Yeah, I definitely heard it, when I first got into this, but I don't know. There might have been a couple that might continue to say it just flippantly, not really thinking about the words coming out of their mouth. But for the most part, I mean, for the flat earthers that I hear going at it, they, for the most part, they say it appears to rise to eye level because obviously it doesn't.
Adam, go ahead.
I think I've had a number of phones since I started this, and every time I update my phone, that bloody Dioptra app loads up. Back in the day, it was a claim of ours. The horizon did rise to eye level. It appeared to. We used the word appeared because I think we recognised it wasn't Earth curve then. It was just as Arwin would say, an optical thing. But it is something I would concede, being factually correct, that the horizon doesn't appear to rise to eye level. The horizon appears to alter the higher you go, but it doesn't match the eye. I want to just challenge something that Refracted says. He says we measure the difference between the two planes. We don't. We use the horizon and we use a calculation derived from mathematics and practicality to make an adjustment to that, so that we are taking that horizon thing to approximate to the level plane that we're stood on. But we don't measure that. We only measure to the horizon and use that and then make an adjustment from that measurement. When we do that, we can see that there is a need to know the height we are at. Now, if the horizon rose to eye level, all we'd ever have to do is line our eyes up through the sextant with the horizon and it would approximate the flat plane. But we know that because of perspective and the relationship with perspective and height above the deck and those limited angles, how they play out, that the horizon does not match that perfectly and we have to make an adjustment. And that adjustment is the dip tables as demonstrated. So if I was put in a spot now, today, as a knowledgeable flat earther or as a newbie flat earther, I would answer with the response of no, it doesn't. When you look at it, when we do celestial navigation, we can see that it doesn't appear to rise to eye level. It does adjust and it does maintain a rough position in center frame, but it does not rise to eye level, and that's why we have to make dip corrections.
Thank you, Adam.
Think if QE was
I
here.
would like to. Hold on a second. I got challenged.
One sentence.
Hold on, Righteous. Hold on. Something was directed at John in regards to the measurement of a differential between two flat planes. So I want him to just address his challenge that he's had first. Go ahead, John.
The horizon is where the flat plane you stand upon meets the sky.
Correct. That's a function of perspective and height above the deck.
Right. So how is it wrong to say that the horizon is as much a part of the flat plane that you stand upon as it is for part of the sky?
It is. It's that function of perspective and that knowledge of perspective and the way that plays out in relation to the height above the deck that we're doing a calculation to use those knowns to adjust to make a theoretical adjustment. We don't actually adjust it to anything in particular, do we? We refer to the table.
Just at the eye level.
Well, no, we don't. That's probably the reality point I'm making. We don't adjust to eye level. The eye level we have is defined by the horizon. We accept that there's a variance in that based on our height. So we take away some numbers based on a calculation, which we assume will get us to the correct eye horizontal level, parallel with the deck. That's what we assume does, but we don't actually do that.
Can I interject something?
No, Arwin.
No.
Just carry this point. It's a nuance, John, and it's a nuance I believe to be correct. I'm happy to be challenged on it, but from the way I understand it,
Okay, we've heard it a couple of
that's what
times,
we do.
Adam. I've got to stop you
Yeah.
now. I'm sorry. Go ahead, John.
When you said eye horizontal, that is your eye level. That's how it's defined, because it's level and it's parallel to the plane you're standing upon.
But we don't have that, do we? We can't, when we're at sea, we can't define eye level. We've got to use the horizon.
Right. And that's why we adjust to eye level.
Sure.
No,
I think
that-
that, hold on.
No,
I
John.
see the issue now. The issue is, John, that Adam's pointing out that you said you're measuring the difference between the two planes as opposed to correcting with a calculation from where, admittedly, you're correct, the plane that you were stood upon meets the sky, because that is the physicality of your ground that you could stand on, meeting the sky in its parent location. And as you're raising in elevation, you're then doing a calculation to correct to that point, but you're not doing a differential because you're not holding a bubble sextant to get the second flat plane. You're correcting to it with a calculation. I think that's Adam's point. Am I right?
This is where
Well, hold on.
Armin's correct. Well, let me just expand on that a little bit, because this is where Armin's correct, because the calculation isn't a geometric adjustment. It's an optical adjustment. So you can't measure it, if you see what I mean. You just adjust for it within the optics.
Right, angular.
No.
I know,
Angular
Alvin, you want to
lines.
get a piece of this. But John's desperate to get his response in. Please, go ahead, John.
Well, this is the thing, right? You can use the bubble sextant. Well, I would like to see it done. Take the bubble sextant, right? And measure the horizontal on it, and then take a sextant and measure to the horizon.
Yeah, you could do this, but that isn't what's done.
Right. No, that's not what's done.
Right, but that is
the
what
eye
Adam's.
level.
Yeah,
But the
sh-
eye
sh-
level
hold on, I've got to
is
stop you.
what
But I agree. I know where you're going, and I know it's a good point. I hate to stop you, but that isn't what Adam's saying. In terms of what you actually do measure, that makes your statement incorrect. That's what he challenged you on. You wanted to respond to it.
Well, but it's the differential between horizontal and where the horizon renders itself.
Correct, but unless you've got a tool to measure horizontal, which you obviously haven't, otherwise you wouldn't be using the horizon, you're not measuring that differential. That is Adam's point.
I thought
But it is a differential. You may not be measuring it, but you can measure it.
No, you can't. And from what
No,
I
I'd stop, Adam. Stop.
understand
Yeah, that's a bit Weasley, John, but fine. Yeah.
No.
Okay, John.
No.
Adam, go ahead.
Wow.
No, because they weren't measured. They were just extrapolated by people going up poles, yeah, and doing what John's doing. It's a bit like Newton's work, yeah. He just collated the data. This is why the tables differ in different areas. So it's just an approximation based on the optics, and a table's drawn based on what John was saying, yeah, with defining the level, showing the variance when you line that up, and then different parts of the plane with different humidities, temperatures, that these tables are different.
Okay, I would like John and then Arwin. John gets the second to final word, then Arwin can have his last word, right? But this has been a great show, guys. It's been an hour of live show. I'm sure none of you realise that an hour just whizzed by, but it has. And I thank you. I feel in great company. John, go ahead. No? Any last points you want to add to that?
Mine.
Yeah, there is a point that I do disagree with, and that is that you can't measure that differential. You could if you use the tools to do it.
Yeah, I agreed with you as well. I was like, yes, you could, but ipso facto, you wouldn't be doing that ever under any circumstances unless you went out intentionally to make your point in this exact point. Now, that's very smart of you, but by the same token, that isn't what they do. No one's going to be out there with a Mariners and a bubble sextant measuring the differential. While you could, and I agree, and yeah. Arwin, go ahead.
Right, so I want to kind of bypass this. I've been trying and just make you realize, like, this is all very complicated comparison between Euclidean designations and optical designations, which makes it very confusing. Or maybe that's just me. Maybe you got it all cleared up very succinctly in your minds. I don't so much. So what I'd like to repeal to is a basic explanation of what the horizon, where it's actually going to be to the observer, like what that is, right? There is a limit of sight, and depending on the conditions in the weather, it might be further away or closer to you. So depending on that, if there's a clear day, then the horizon, the optical one, pure what you're seeing, is probably going to be closer to eye level than when it's really foggy or there's just, other more distorting weather when your line of sight becomes closer. And depending on your height, that's going to mean it's going to get lower, because now the actual Euclidean position limit of sight range is going to draw closer. So it's going to go down within the optics. And that was it.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smash the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!